The new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire. The human postponer. They were the master of one phrase. I'll circle back on that. But 3 months later, you were the one doing all their work and wondering how big that circle is. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can take the hiring load off your plate by automating the hiring busy work from the initial job post to scheduling interviews. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
Can y'all talk a little bit about new relationship energy? Sometimes I find it amplifies the parts of my anchor or primary partner that I feel really frustrated about when that new relationship doesn't have those things.
When you don't know what it is, but you just feel something inside you is scared of being honest, how do you work through that with your partner or for yourself?
I actually have trouble feeling like any boundaries are justified because I'm like, love is supporting you, thriving in who you're becoming, but my nervous system is going crazy. And so like how to strike that balance.
My curiosity is, how do you show up when you fuck up? And do you have any advice for people of how to meet your partner in the times that it's really hard?
Hi everyone, welcome to Polycurious. I am Fair, relationship coach and your host. And today's episode is actually not a Polycurious episode per se. It is a recording from an event I attended as a panelist about a month ago where we discussed open relating. It was called Open to Open. It happened in Denver. And I absolutely loved the conversation. It was hosted by my friend Bella, whom you might remember from a previous Polycurious episode. I interviewed her and her husband, Patrick. Today, we had 5 panelists, as I mentioned, me being one of them, Bella, Patrick, and then Jessica Esfandiari. You might have listened to her podcast, Open Late, which is not active at the moment, but I was a guest on her podcast. She was a guest on mine, so you might be familiar with her name. And lastly, we also had Paul, who's a community member who might not be professionally in this world, but had, I think, some of the best insights. So today we talk about new relationship energy. We talk about communication, we talk about boundaries, we talk about how to repair. And the co-host of this event, besides Bella, is Booster. He is also a coach, and they're actually collaborating on a retreat happening this fall, November 20th and 21st, just outside of Boulder, Colorado. And this retreat isn't just for people who are in open relationships. This is for any couple that wants to deepen their love and restore devotion through desires. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to Bella. Her email is in the show notes, as well as her website with a little bit more information about the retreat. Okay, guys, hope you enjoy today's recording, and I'll be back with regular Polycurious episodes after the summer. And in the meantime, you can listen to previous episodes or subscribe to unlock exclusive content on Patreon or Spotify, 2 episodes per week, which I'm releasing throughout the summer while I take a break. Also, you can find everything we talked about in this conversation, the episodes, the harmony card that Paul mentioned, and again, the links to connect with Bella and Booster if you want to stay in the loop for their retreat or upcoming events. Okay, guys, I hope that you enjoy and learn as much as I did.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Booster, and I am going to be one of your hosts this evening. My co-host is right over here. That's Bella. She's going to introduce herself here momentarily. And we're going to, as soon as we introduce our panel for this evening. So welcome to Open. And this is the potential beginning of a series that the intention of which is to create powerful conversations inside of community where we can share are hacks where we can share what we've learned with one another in support of helping each of us on our path, our respective path to growth and bliss, right? So one of the most powerful aspects, like community is messy, and I've been doing community just about for 40 years now, and the community is really messy, but there is really no better place to grow. There's so much that we can learn from each other, especially when we're willing to drop in, get real, and speak our truth in a way that to the kind of ear that is willing to listen, to understand. And that just becomes such a powerful catalytic force, has been for me in my life, and creating so much opportunity. So that's the purpose of why we're getting together here. So we are here tonight to discuss the topic of ethical non-monogamy, openness, open relating. And there are a lot of different ways that can look. Some of us have been, in this room, there's going to be some measure of experience or interest for each of you. And whatever your personal journey has been with this particular topic, it's welcome here. Some of us have been like white knuckling this relationship style for who knows how long, trying to figure it out. And others have been part of communities that have been helping each other grow along the way. However you have been doing it, tonight is an opportunity for you to ask the hard questions, the tough questions, questions you've been curious about, to understand this way of relating. For some, it's like open relating, in my experience, it's often put on a pedestal as like the holy grail of relationships. It's like it's like having your cake and eating it too, is how I've often heard it, right? Others who have more experience with the methods call it like we spend, open relating is 90% hard conversations and 10% open relating, So it's easy to say there's no right or wrong way to do it, but I don't actually believe that's true. I think that there are actually better ways of practicing ethical non-monogamy than there are others. There's going to, however, be our own individual nervous systems. What works best for any one of us is going to be unique, right? So as you're hearing the different philosophies here tonight, bear that in mind, that just because somebody else may be lit up by some version of truth here tonight, that doesn't mean that that's right for you, right? So feeling into your experience and what feels true to you is going to be where you start, right? So, okay. I am not one of the experts here tonight. I am here showing up with as much curiosity as all of you. However, although we have our panel up front, I know that in this room and in the audience, there is a wealth of expertise. There is expertise sitting out here as much as there is sitting up front here, right? So I'm going to want to harvest some of that expertise here tonight as well. So there may be, in addition to questions you have, you may actually want to answer a question. You may have something that you want to add, right? So if that's the case, I encourage you to raise your hand for that as well. I'm going to be prioritizing our answer giving to our brave folks, those who are willing to step up and say, hey, I have some things to share. So I'm going to be prioritizing them, but I do want to include your experiences and your wisdom here as well. Okay, so without any further ado, I want to introduce my co-host, Miss Bella.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for being here. This has been a long time coming for me. And I want to invite all of your nervous systems to be exactly the way they want to be. So if something comes online for you
and it doesn't feel very good, it is welcome. And if something comes online for you and it's like, oh yeah, I do want that, that's welcome as well. If something comes up and it feels a little icky and sticky, that's great. It's just something to notice. It's okay. Okay? Can we all take a collective breath into that? The last thing I want to say is that I want you to pick out people in this crowd or somebody on the panel and say, oh my gosh, what Fer is saying is amazing, and I want to talk to her more about her experience, because it's very different than Paul's experience, and it's very different than my experience, or Jess. So really take note of what people are saying, the people that are around us. This is like one of the main goals is this is community. You're finding people that are also weird. Congratulations. Welcome. Anything else?
I'd like each of our panel members just to introduce yourself, your name, and your experience, like a short summary of your experience with open relating. What has that been like for you? And if there's, we'll start there.
Okay. Hello, I'm Bella. My experience with open relating is not necessarily supernatural. I came to it because I met an amazing person and he invited me into this world. And I thought I was just a slut and like a normal slut. And that was the end of that. And I didn't think I was polyamorous. And turns out I am a little bit. So I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I've been a slut for a long time. Don't know when that started. But yeah, it's been about 5 years of practicing it and trying to get really good at it and better at it. And yeah, honor myself and honor the people I am connecting with. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fernanda, Fer for short. And I've been in a monopoly relationship with my partner, Seth, who's over there with the plaid shirt hiding from the crowd. For about 6 years. We've been 8 years together. We're engaged. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey because there aren't that many examples of people who are in monopoly relationships.
Could you explain what monopoly means?
Oh, yes. So basically, I'm non-monogamous and my partner is monogamous. And, while it is super common to have couples that have differing degrees of interest in non-monogamy, and that's one of the things that I specialize on as a coach, it's a little bit more rare to find this dynamic, I think, for a variety of reasons, but I think part of it is because we don't see it as often, and we assume that, people have to both want it in order for this to work. So that's one of the things that I challenge in my work. I have a podcast called Polycurious. And yeah, well, I've dated people and I had one partner that I broke up with 6 months ago. At this moment, I'm actually questioning where I am with non-monogamy and what I want. And I'm kind of on that journey, and that's what I share, and I'm happy to share today. But I think, as Buster said, it's my experience, right? And that might be very different from other people's experiences. So, but I'm happy to share. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Hey, everybody. My name is Paul. I have been in non-monogamous relationships, kind of on and off, for 7 years. Currently in a polyamorous relationship with my lovely partner, anchor partner, Natalie here. Absolutely not going to claim to be an expert. In fact, I'm really excited to learn from everybody here. And one of the biggest reasons why I decided to join this and be part of this is, just to feel that this is a shared experience. It can feel very much being on an island. We have a lot of friends who are monogamous and just don't really kind of get the experience that we have on a regular basis, as much as we try to, help with their curiosity toward it. Excited to share my experiences and hear from you all. Thanks for having me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess.
I have been practicing non-monogamy for almost 13 years. 99% of that was inside of a marriage. And it was totally accidental in the beginning, and then just something that I couldn't close Pandora's box. And it just evolved into a really beautiful way of relating. I've practiced almost every form of non-monogamy and polyamory over the years. I had a podcast called Openly. And Farah and I met that way. We interviewed each other. And yeah, I kind of put that down about 3 years ago to have kids. And so I took a big sabbatical, and yeah, just coming back to the world of dating and open relating as a mom. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jess. I'm Patrick. Yeah, I'm on this panel because my wife asked me to be here. And like Paul, I don't necessarily feel like an expert, but I've been doing this for a while. And I think what I'll share with my experience is just like, after years of feeling like a fish swimming upstream, like I feel like I'm swimming downstream now, and that feels really good.
Thank you. So let's just maybe get a clarification of some terms, right? I personally think that the way I sort of think of openness is every relationship is an open relationship. It's just to what degree you dial in that openness, right? Culturally, I think that we've been conditioned to think of monogamy, relationships mean you don't have physical, intimate affection with anyone other than your partner. Okay, what about emotional intimacy? What about intellectual intimacy, right? Like, we don't have great rules for that in our society, not just kind of like default given unwritten rules, right? So, but it's one of those things where you kind of know it when you see it, when you see your partner or in a traditional relationship that is emotionally intimate with someone else, you probably feel that. So I think that all relationships, I like to think, are all open. It's just a matter of where you draw that line. Maybe it's only, making out, like you said, or something else, right? One of the other bases, but however you define that, is, I think of openness as being, it's open to interpretation and reinforced by agreement. Okay, so we're going to start jumping into some deeper questions here. And I'm going to start to field some of them first, get us all warmed up, and then I'll start asking you all for some questions. We'll start off with an easy one. What is something that you wish that you would like people to know about ethical non-monogamy before they formed an opinion about it? What's something you'd like them to know?
What comes to mind for me is something that Bella and I encountered right away, which is, quite often in this lifestyle, certainly from me, it means that like we can create whatever we want, right? Like we're not stuck in a set of default rules that you can't kiss your friends, you can't have feelings for somebody else, and you can just create whatever you want. And that was like something that came up in the beginning of our relationship, and was like quite an aha moment when I realized that perhaps she was getting ideas about that I had a certain expectation of her and this needed to be, when really I just wanted to create the perfect relationship for us at that moment and ongoing, continue to create it. So I just wish people like knew that it's really just like you can do whatever you want, but interrogate it and be clear on yourself and your own nervous system and your partner and everything. But it's like really just, I wish more people realize that it just gives you the freedom to create whatever you want.
I like that answer. Yeah. Anybody else have a follow on?
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback on that actually, because I think what came up for me first was just the sheer amount of like personal growth you will likely have to do. And I feel like people have a misconception that this is like the freedom way, or like the, like the way to do things easily and to like not confront, like people feel like there are challenges in all types of relationships, but I feel like people might feel like monogamy is really hard, and maybe that's an indicator that it would be for them, but that practicing non-monogamy is just going to be so much easier because they can do whatever they want. And it's actually, I feel like, quite the opposite. Just really invites you to really explore so much more about yourself. And I also feel like, having practiced for so long, you can have that in monogamy too, if you continue to explore and to really question and be curious, kind of as you were saying. But I think that's what I would want people to know most, is like, strap in, because you're going to be on a personal development roller coaster. Yeah.
Great. So, personal emotional roller coaster. I'm hearing that. What are some of the, Patrick, you had talked about that it creates almost like a blank canvas, right? What are some of the need to haves that you have to have? Like, if you are making a cake, right, you got to have some essential ingredients. What are some of the essential ingredients that successfully having a form of open relating poly requires?
Maybe obvious to everyone here, but very strong and skillful, like, openness to explore communication and to learn how to understand your own triggers, to be able to meet the person that you're with and whatever experience they're having, like this ability to empathize with something you may not understand in the moment. You might find yourself very triggered, but just being able to have those moments of meeting someone in conflict over and over and over again, things just tend to be amplified in my experience. Having a sense of attachment styles and how you can polarize in that way. Having a good therapist that you work with, that can be extremely important too. There's a whole list of things, but those would be, this openness to be in, intense personal triggers on a more regular basis, I think is important.
I would just add to that, I think self-awareness is super important, because, you'll find yourself experiencing feelings, and if you are not able to say, oh, this feeling came from this thing, and I feel like what I need is this thing, you might be like, oh, my partner made this mistake and they did something wrong, right? And maybe your partner did, maybe they did, but maybe they didn't, right? And I think if you are not able to talk about how you feel and what you need, and then of course, like, stick to agreements, that can make it really difficult. And I think, not to be gender, but I do think that, men especially are not socialized to talk about their feelings, and to be vulnerable, so I think that that's something that you get to exercise as you open up.
Beautiful. That's a great segue into the next question that I'm going to ask, which is, who would be willing to share the lessons that you've learned? In other words, where have you really fucked it up? And where have you learned, where has it been the case that it did not, it wasn't what you expected, or you were doing things one way and it wasn't working, and you had to figure out how to do it a different way?
Okay. Good question. I would say for me, it's like the roller coaster, the self-development roller coaster. you start to see the patterns that have come up. And so I started to see the patterns of being a victim in many areas of my life. And then I was like, great, Patrick can be my perpetrator. Awesome. Stoked. So happy I met you, babe. And then I had to come to terms with that. I was like, oh my gosh, I keep making him wrong and I keep leaving him. And then I come back. And I think, so twofolds, really fucking it up by leaving him and not staying through my own nervous system overhaul many times. And I had to come to terms with that. And then the second thing is having to come to terms with how I love to play the victim in all areas of my life. And it's very subtle and sneaky. And it has been a huge blessing to slowly tackle that bit by bit. But yeah, it's like, it's not just in my relationship, it's everywhere. It's the seeing it in this area. It's the seeing it in my work life. It's the seeing it. And then, yeah, meeting a wonderful person to work it out with. Love you so much.
Thank you. Beautiful. Someone else want to take a crack at that one?
Yeah. There has been this continued. Oh, check it. There's been this continual lesson of learning to let go of control. Coming from being mostly monogamous through my 20s and having this experience of like feeling like I'm like creating this container and I've got this like, okay, I know what to expect. I know what might happen. And again to recognize that this is another human being who is their own person. And for example, may date people that may not be exactly like my cup of tea. And sure, it's wonderful to create an intention and expect that I am going to get along with this person. There's going to be amicability. We're going to be able to know each other and respect each other. To let go of the need to make sure everything lines up perfectly. And there's these subtle ways that, at least personally, I can manipulate to try to make that happen. And that I'm kind of like getting ahead of it and trying to, just control the outcome of what's happening. And when you're involving a whole other person or multiple people outside of a single relationship, there's a like ability to surrender and just be present with how things are actually showing up and what's organic, rather than trying to like really like, but this person will be this role, this person will be this role, and so on. That's been a huge lesson over and over again.
I just want to echo that because I think that, in monogamy, we have a lot of fake certainty, right? Because at the end of the day, our partner might cheat on us, even if we think that, we're going to be with them forever and they'll be faithful, whatever. But in non-monogamy, we know that we don't know, right? And I like totally identify with that. And it's not just like wanting to control who your partner is dating or like how their relationship is going to go, but also like your relationship with someone new and you not knowing what shape that's going to take, because usually the shape that it takes is monogamy and you know what that involves. But non-monogamy like brings up a lot of fear, and that can be very destabilizing to just be like, okay, like my partner has this new connection and I don't know where it's going, or I have this new connection and I don't know where it's going, and you can really just like go in circles in your head. So I think that you are on point with just being like, okay, you know what, like this is part of the beauty even of non-monogamy, that we just get to be present, we get to figure out, it doesn't have to look a certain way. But as much as it's beautiful, it is also difficult. And like, I think it has also taught me to just, in general, in life, be okay with uncertainty, and that has been something else that I really appreciate that I've learned. But it's not easy. It still happens that I'm like, but I want all the answers, and I have to remind myself, just breathe, you'll figure it out, and it doesn't have to look any specific way. It can be whatever you want it to be. And your partners, whatever your partner also is okay with.
Anyone else? Jess?
I mean, I don't know if this is like royally fucking it up or however you put it, but I do think, I mean, lots of mistakes along the way, lots of like figuring things out in real time. I would say, looking back, I think that I, in an effort to control, to make myself more comfortable, I would have this, I couldn't quite discern if I was being controlling or if I really had these boundaries that I wanted to uphold. And I think in hindsight, now that I know myself more, there were boundaries, and they weren't like these massive boundary violations, but small cracks along the way, you know, year after year, letting things go that maybe I wasn't the most comfortable with. And my big tendency, and where I do this everywhere in my life, is I'm a people pleaser. And I think had I had more confidence and less, I think, automatic programming to just want to keep things easy, there would have been some challenging conversations and maybe some big emotions, but ultimately I think my partner would have respected these boundaries had I upheld them. Instead of me kind of feeling like, "Oh, I didn't really like that," or "I didn't want that to happen," or "that's not really the best for me." And then having these tiny little resentments along the way that just grow into something bigger, you know, and then maybe you're fighting about something that has absolutely nothing to do with the non-monogamy, but it's really about these little small pieces of myself that I sort of just shut down to be the easy one. Yeah, and I think that was probably my biggest kind of threat through it all. Yeah.
Amazing. Love that. Great. Okay, so I think we're pretty warmed up here. I'm going to open it up to you guys here. Who's got a question for our panel? Yes, Jazz.
Hello. Yeah, can y'all talk a little bit about new relationship energy and how that impacts, especially if you are finding yourself in, you know, what some people call a hierarchical relationship where you do have a primary, and how that jumbles and rumbles things up and how you handle it.
Great question.
Well, first of all, for people who might not know what new relationship energy is, it's basically, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory, but you have a new relationship and you're excited and you have this energy, and that can be very difficult when you already have a partner, right? And then your partner is seeing you excited about someone else. And sometimes you can bring that energy back into your own relationship, and all of a sudden you are more in the mood to have sex, or you are just like in a better mood, or you have like more ideas for dates, and it can be really positive. But I also have experience, and the reason why I don't really love new relationship energy, my latest episode was on this, if you're interested, is because it can also be really distracting, right? Especially when you have a partner. And I think especially the first time that it happened to me, I was like, oh my God, like, why am I thinking 24/7 about this person that's not my partner? And I'm here with my partner and I'm like feeling guilty. I'm feeling like I shouldn't be doing this and whatever. And then the more I educated myself and the more I experienced it, I realized that, you know, it is normal to feel this, again, new relationship energy, and that you thinking about this new person more than your partner for those weeks or days or whatever doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with your relationship, with your primary relationship. It just means that you're excited about this new person, and it will go away. It will go away. And most likely, I mean, maybe the relationship will also actually turn into something, but maybe like the next day you actually break up with this person. So I've learned with time to just kind of take it with a grain of salt and not take my feelings too seriously, and just being like, it's normal for me to like be thinking about this other person. It'll go away. I don't love it sometimes because it is distracting, you know, and it does make me feel like, oh, maybe I'm not as focused on my partner or on my work or on whatever I want to be focused on. But at the same time, I'm like, well, it'll go away. It's not forever. And also, of course, there's parts that can be very, very enjoyable about this new connection. But I would say, you know, be careful not to kind of make any decisions in that stage. Just like, don't take your feelings too seriously, basically, when that happens. And it gets less
destabilizing the more you experience it, right? I think especially the first time you connect with someone, you're like, oh my God, does this mean I'm gonna break up with my partner? And no, it's just a new relationship energy. Just write it, and you'll feel differently on the other side.
For one, I love new relationship energy. I think it's great. I saw this great meme recently, and I've told some of you this, and I might have mentioned it on your podcast. They're like, a crush is really just a lack of information. And it's so good, because it's just like you get so excited, and then you're like, oh, wow, this person is not a weirdo in the way I like. Also, I would say, and again, I'm not bashing on monogamy, but the idea of managing your relationship energy is kind of beautiful, especially alongside, if you have a partner or if they have a partner alongside that. When I look at, the idea of serial monogamy, somebody who, you see those friends who are just going from one crush to the next and diving in deep, and they're kind of riding these waves. And the beauty and certainly in our relationship is we get to ride that wave, but also have the stability of our partners. So I would also say we really try and, as much as possible, name our crushes, which is a lot of fun. Hey, I've got a crush, and sort of diffuse that new relationship energy, introduce my partner to that new relationship energy. Sometimes I do it in not the most productive way. I'll joke around a lot if I'm uncomfortable about somebody she's seeing a lot of. I'm like, oh, are you texting them? And it's maybe not the most healthy, but fucking works for me. And I think I had something else to say about that, but that's probably good. I really love it. And I also think just acknowledging that it does go away, and so enjoy it when it's there, and try and build something solid underneath it is kind of how I try and approach it.
Wow, I really love that. I just want to foot stomp we can appreciate the crush, the new relationship energy, but without letting go of our appreciation for the stability that our anchor partner provides, right? Not losing that. And I think when we can express our appreciation for our anchor person, it helps take some of that heat off as well. Knowing that, no, you're not going anywhere. You're my anchor. You're my rock. And that is so important to me. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying this discussion. Very vulnerably, I'll just share, in new relationship energy, sometimes I find it amplifies the parts of my anchor or primary partner that I feel really frustrated about when that new relationship doesn't have those things. And like you said, it's you just don't have all the information yet. And so, of course, all this new kind of person is going to be in this gorgeous spotlight of their infallible. And then all of the things that you're already frustrated about with your anchor partner, which is such a normal thing of relationships, just start getting amplified. And that is something that I've just struggled with, of how to move through that part. So I really appreciate, the thoughts of, just spending extra time, caring for the stability of hey, you're my rock. And it's hard right now, but we'll move through it tight.
I really feel you there.
Yeah, I feel like it's a generally good idea not to make too many big judgments about a new relationship until you have your first conflict. Until you go through something really hard together and you see how they handle that, and then you have some basis of comparison. I guess if that does feel important to you, if there is some level of dissatisfaction in a relationship you're in or something. But something I did want to say about NRE that I think is helpful to have first a layer of awareness that you're having there around that you're comparing people in completely different positions, but also to build a sort of, system into it in some way where I'm going to spend a little more time checking in on my partner during this time, especially if they have more of an anxious attachment in those moments. And just putting a little more emphasis and energy than would maybe be natural at that time, because your thoughts are going to be with this new person maybe more often. But that it's like this kind of level of devotion to the relationship that you do have right now, the one that's established and that you have built this beautiful container with. Just adding that little extra, like, okay, I'm going to take a little more time to think about my partner and where they might be at and how I can invest in them. And also, I think what's really wonderful is taking that new relationship energy that you're feeling and bringing it into the relationship that you're currently in. Because, I mean, I just went on a date the other day and I came home and I'm just like so bubbly and excited. And Natalie gets to experience that and I get to give that to her and like give her that aspect of myself. I think it can really amplify the relationship that you're in too. Yeah.
Just super quickly, because this was super helpful to me on that note. You know, that's one way of saying it, of like, oh, my partner doesn't have all these things that my new relationship has. But another way that I try to think about is if I wasn't non-monogamous, I wouldn't get all of these things, right? Like, this is why I'm non-monogamous, so I can get these things that my partner doesn't have. And also, what are the things that my partner has that the new relationship doesn't, right? Because everything has like a flip side, right? And maybe those things, you know, to give an example, like, said my partner is not like as outgoing and he's more of like a homebody and he likes to stay home. And sometimes I'd be like, oh, I want him to come out with me. But then it's like, you know, but I love that he balances me out in that way, right? Like, I couldn't be with someone that wanted to go out all the time because then we would never be home. You know what I mean? So it's like, you have to think about the flip side of the thing that you don't like about your partner and how you get the other thing by dating the other person, you know? So it's also like a perspective shift that can be helpful.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. One of the things that I've noticed in that dance is that, you know, someone once told me that love is an action. It's a verb. It's not a noun, meaning that love is how we treat one another versus having this consistent feeling of infatuation. And so that perspective has been helpful for me in recognizing that my partner may need my attention and support and warmth, even when I'd prefer to be with somebody else. But that me actually showing up for my partner is what love looks like. And that goes a long way in helping my partner's nervous system settle and then thereby creating stability in the relationship. So great question, Jazz. Who else has got a question?
I'm kind of just curious, everyone's take, you know, I think about people out in the Bay and this kind of idea of relationship anarchy and like, all right, we're going to make the biggest polycule we can and we're going to have so many lovers and we're going to like really push the envelope. And then I kind of see the scene here and I feel like it's so oriented towards anchor partners and I'm trying to figure out why that is and also like, why are we leaning into that? Why don't we see as many polycules? Like, what are the, you know, and I don't really even know what the question is, but I'm just kind of waxing on this and have been waxing on it. And like, yes, we haven't gone that far west. Maybe that's just it. And they're just freakier weirdos. And if we wanted that, we would have moved to the Bay. But yeah, just kind of curious where y'all stand on that and what you've learned and take that as you will.
So I think the question was, one version would be, why aren't we all more freakier than we are, right? But another way of saying that is that openness, ethical non-monogamy is a spectrum, right? And it seems like, at least in this room, we are grouping in a certain area on that spectrum, right? And I'm betting that you're wondering if what are the reasons that is the wisdom, or what are the reasons that have us grouping in that particular cluster on the spectrum of openness? Does that capture it? Okay. Do you need any clarification? Anybody want to take a shot at that one? That's really nuanced.
I think the only thing I can think about is there's less people here.
So it's a sampling error, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Maybe. Okay. I'm going to push you on that. I think that is probably true. I think if we were to pull in a greater population, we would see more variance. However, I want to push that. I think that there are reasons. There are reasons. Is my presupposition here that why we're in this, why you guys have chosen your particular flavor of openness, why you're not freaking it out with as many partners as you can, about why you've struck the balance that you have.
Sure.
Why isn't this an orgy right now?
I came for the orgy. Came for the orgy. I also want to ask Peter, are we turning into an Easter house then? Are we just going to turn? Is that what we're going to do? I'll speak from my experience solely. And, I'm married to this lovely woman over here. I didn't ever think I was going to get married. And it's not because I thought I would just be freaky till the day I die, but I just when you were asking about tools or things that people should know, I think for me, being able to do this and commit has been a big part of it, and really commit. And a lot of folks get that confused and conflate that with non-monogamy lacks commitment. And it's I'm committed to this woman, and I've committed to other partners as well. And right now it just feels really good to commit. I try not to use the word primary partner. I also think there's some practical things around that. We are married, we have a legal union. If I need to take a job in California, the one I'm going to talk to the most about that is Bella, not any other partner I have. So I think there's a little bit of we worked really hard to make this work. And, I think for me, it's been kind of a staging thing. Will it open up more? We don't know, but I think from a commitment standpoint, that felt really good for me. And I can't speak for the Bay Area or why there's not more people here taking their clothes off. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jess.
Well, I haven't been here that long. I've only lived here for 6-8 months, and I came from California. So all of my non-monogamy has been in Los Angeles and some in San Francisco. And I do think that it is, I haven't explored here much. I don't know what's going on besides this. I literally invited myself to this, and
we're
I'm
barely above a cow town out here.
Yeah, I do think that it is, especially California, and I'm not speaking that the mindset isn't here. It is just a smaller sample size. I think the West Coast is pushing the envelope on everything. It's always the cutting edge of everything, whether it's tech, therapy, psychedelics, although that is happening here too. I think there's just so many more options. On any given Saturday night in LA, you've got 8 to 10 different parties to choose from. And these aren't the private parties. These are the public ticketed events. So I think you just have way more exposure and options. And I don't know if that would change, if we had that here, if that would happen, or if there's I don't know, maybe a more stable, grounded energy here that would keep people wanting to stay in these sort of committed long-term partnerships and then having, supplemental, beautiful relationships on the sides. I also am of the mindset that I think there is a trend towards that being what people really want. I think, we all have our basic human needs, right? There's it's talked about different, thought leaders say, well, we have 6 basic human needs. And right at the top is certainty and then variety. And so I do think that most people will get to a place where they want that. They want an anchor partner. They want a certain level of like life partnership. And then, you know, in addition to that. So I kind of.
Okay, let me, I'm going to switch. I'm going to bring it in a little bit with you, right? How many is too many for Jess?
Oh, well, in what context? Like emotional or sexual?
Having a more than a one night stand, so a regular sexual, intimate, this is physically and emotionally intimate with someone. So you've got that connection, and so it's requiring maintenance. Requires maintenance. How many is too many for Jess?
I don't know. I haven't tested it out. I would say the most amount of consistent partners I ever had at once was 4.
And what's ideal for you?
I don't know. These are things I get to explore now as like a new mom. I would love to have 2 to 3 consistent partners. Yeah.
And how would you know that you were stretched too thin, or how would you know it was too much?
If I'm not like spending enough time with myself, like on myself, if I was sacrificing like my own sort of practices and like how I want to take care of my own energy. And for me, like obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but my children come first. And I'm a bit hierarchical in the way that like my friendships are extremely important to me. I'm actually going through a divorce, so I don't have a partner right now. And so I'm like swimming in this new time where I'm like, okay, it's my children, and then it's my friends who I'm in love with. Like I'm deeply in love with many of my friends. And I used to talk a lot about platonic polyamory. And then, you know, like intimacy and sexuality and all of that is great. But in this era, it actually feels very third. So I don't know, like maybe 2, maybe 3 partners would be plenty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. That's great. So anybody else have anything you want to add to that?
I think it has a big thing to do with the relative lack of queer culture that's present here in Denver. I mean, yeah, queer people and especially BIPOC people that are also in short supply here tend to, push boundaries on what's possible within relationship. And especially I've been learning a lot from some BIPOC poly educators about the differences that they've noticed between white poly and BIPOC poly, and that BIPOC poly tends to be much more oriented toward shared resources and like almost like a family, like a polycule is a family, more than just a kinky thing where people get together and have group sex, which is wonderful, of course. But and it's been getting me into a different mindset around, what actually would feel even better to me is to have a polycule that feels like a family, where it's just so much love between everyone, whether there's sexual interaction or not between the members of it, but just this like shared family of really deeper ties than you would even have in friendship. I mean, friendships can be really deep as well, but that's my perspective on it.
Awesome. I really appreciate that you brought the queer in. And, ask me afterwards if you want me to defend this, but I will say that I think queer culture has created more freedom and options for straight culture than anything else in the history of thing. So praise be to our brave brothers, sisters, and everyone in between that has made the freedoms that we are even curious about or talking about in this room, because they had to face hell and high water to make that happen. So, praise to our queer folk. Okay, so we probably have, we've got maybe time for 2, maybe 3 questions. Who's got one? Right over here, this lovely, lovely woman.
So, Booster asked you guys a question about like how you fucked up. My curiosity is, how do you show up when you quote unquote fuck up? And do you have any advice for people of how to meet your partner in the times that it's really hard?
Great question. So, best practices for repair.
Natalie and I actually created this card for ourselves in those moments that we call the harmony card. And it has a list of steps that we follow. It basically, like, when we're in that moment of feeling totally spiraled and both in different directions, we're like younger versions of ourselves. It's just so helpful to have some list of steps that we can follow. And it's been curated well. And even on the card, we like put our baby pictures, or like pictures of us as little kids, so that we can see that like this person that I'm really upset with is like actually, like, just to connect with the innocence of that person. I think is so helpful. So, yeah.
Is that something that you'd be willing to share?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, great. So if you left your email on our list, then we'll make sure that we send that card out to you.
Yes. Yeah. They're adorable, so it'll disarm you when you see it. Yeah.
That's great. Anyone else?
I think you might have actually said this earlier, Paul, in a different context, but it really stuck out to me as something that took me a long time to learn. It's like listening to your partner to really understand, and not to respond or not to share your why or your how, or how you didn't mean to do the thing that really upset them, but to really just listen with like a blank slate, and then even like reflecting back, okay, this is like what I am understanding from what you're telling me. And before you make it mean anything, just make sure that there is this like mutual agreement on like what they're saying and what the grievance is and what their feelings are. And hopefully it's reciprocal. Because I feel like so much of the time, even in conflict or arguments, even as we explain ourselves, if our partner's not fully present, it lands differently through whatever lens and whatever filter you have, because I'm thinking of how I'm like, well, that's not what I meant. That's not what I intended. And this is, so I feel like when you can really listen and then reflect it back to like fact check it, you're going to get off on the right road and be able to have like a really productive, generative conversation. Yeah.
So reflective listening. That's what I'm hearing there. Yeah. Great. So
I definitely fucked this up recently, and I would just echo that for sure, but also like creating the, kind of what Paul was saying, like creating the space for that, right? Like, so best practice of like not trying to do it in a certain situation where maybe you're not ready for it or whatever, and like taking some time apart or whatever it is, like just making sure that the situation allows for you to hear your partner. And like, that's on you to make sure you create that space. It's on me to create that space for Bella if she needs to share something, to make sure I'm ready to receive it and not flying off the handle or just making assumptions or whatever. So totally echo that, but also like taking responsibility just to create that circumstance to hear.
There's something else. Also, I think it's like extremely important to arrive to these conversations in the space that you made well-resourced. Like, I think it's really helpful to like, when there is a really big conflict, to put it down and like take some space to like do whatever you need to do, even if it's like 20 minutes. Maybe it's like the whole night and coming back the next day, like having slept, having eaten, having had enough water, because it's like those simple things. If you're not resourced like physically, it's so easy to like fly off the handle emotionally. And that's something I learned much later in life.
sounds like one of those, what I learned, what openness taught me.
Yeah, and if I might quickly add, I think the way that you come resource to these conversations is by scheduling the conversations, right? And I understand that sometimes things come up and you need to bring things up in the moment, and that's fine. But something that I learned from my partner Seth actually is to not bring it up in the moment, because if you feel that urgency to bring it up, it's probably because you're activated, because you're upset, right? And same with your partner, right? Like if they are just on their way to work or whatever, and you tell them something, they're not gonna create that space that you need to be listened to, right? So, I sound like a broken record with my clients, but schedule those check-ins. And in addition to what you guys said that I thought was amazing, also validating. So not just like reflecting back, but validating. And that doesn't mean that you need to agree with your partner, right? Like it just means that you get to say, okay, what I hear you say is X, Y, and Z. And it makes sense that you might feel that way, right? And then you go into, but this is why I did it. That's not actually, right? Like we often just jump into, but this is why I did it without going through the other steps. So yeah, just wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I love the scheduling a check-in. I would say front loading the repair. I get lazy in relationship with Patrick. It's really easy to do. And so every 2 weeks, we really try to have a check-in. And even when things are going great. And so, because these little things, it's like the little things, the little boundary crossings that happen over time. And then, oh my gosh, it's been 2 months and we haven't had a check-in. And now we have a huge fight. Well, how did that happen? Oops. So yeah, the little relationship check-ins. Like ours is super simple. It's I acknowledge you for these things. What could be going better? What's going well? And then what's our shared project that we're working on? Super simple. 20 minutes. Doesn't have to be, 2 hours. Yeah.
Awesome answers. And I want to open it up to anybody else here in the audience that has an answer that you want, that you're feeling inspired to offer. So to this question, best practices for making repair or taking accountability if there is a breakdown.
No, it's my question, but I think one thing I would like to add to that, and something that is important to me, is giving space to each other to fuck it up, not allowing repeat patterns, not taking accountability, but recognizing you're going to make agreements and there's going to be misunderstandings and you're going to, it's going to happen. And Booster and I have one of our values is that we have positive regard for each other. So we show up, it's like the pictures of each other as little kids. We show up assuming each other has the right intention, and we don't show up assuming that the other has come to attack us. And so even though we might fuck it up, knowing that our partner is on our team, I think is really important practice to be able to hold and have grace for each other.
You have an unreasonable amount of grace for me, huh? Truly. Anyone else?
Hello. My question was, when you know you have an incredibly hard time at being honest about your actions, how do you work through that with your partner or for yourself? When you don't know what it is, but you just feel something inside you is scared of being honest, but you want to work better on those parts of yourself to show up for yourself and your partner.
Yeah, amazing question. Let me make sure that we captured it right. So I think your question is what's some advice that they may have for when speaking the truth feels really hard? Yeah, great. That's a good question.
Yeah, I just want to echo, that is a beautiful question. Thank you for that. I felt that. First, I want to say, like, sometimes I'll meet somebody at Trader Joe's and Patrick's like, "Ooh, do you have a crush on him?" And I'm like, "I don't know. He looked at me and then I looked at him and then we smiled at each other. And now I feel weird. I don't know." So, like, there's a distortion in your brain. Like, love is weird. Love is hard. Hearts are like, it's hard to explain, to another person, to vocalize what's happening inside of your body. It's really challenging. So I think there's an element of grace that we give each other. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. There's a lot of grace that we give each other. And echoing, we do kind of playfully name crushes. I'm like, I have a crush. And it takes a little of the weight off of it. It's like, haha, I'm 15, I have a crush. So taking some of the playful elements to it. Does anyone else want to say?
For me, the way that I experience this, when it's hard for me to share something and it's hard for me to be fully honest, there's usually a very deep layer of shame that I'm experiencing around that thing. And I mean, for example, I had this crush on Natalie's best friend. And for the longest time, I like held this thing that it was like so wrong of me to do that. Like it was crossing this boundary that wasn't even necessarily stated, but, and actually sharing it with someone else first was incredibly helpful, with a really loving person that was like, "Oh my gosh, that's like so human that you have this experience right now." That opened up to the fact like, oh, it might actually be okay for me to share this. And then I eventually did. And then I was like, well, duh. Of course you have a crush on my friend. Like she's amazing. Like, I would be offended if you didn't have a crush on my friend. So it was like this, yeah. But I think first I had to work through, I mean, it was scary. It was scary when I brought that up, for sure. But to even get to that point, yeah, working with someone that I knew was going to love me as I shared it was extremely helpful. Yeah.
Yes to everything that you're sharing, and also great question. And like, I really honor your vulnerability in even asking it. I think there's like such a high level of self-awareness, and that's why I love non-monogamy, because I think it will always invite us to like our deepest work, like shame work, shadow work is huge. And the one thing I think I just want to like add in for you is, and anybody who struggles with this, is like a lot of times these invitations for our work maybe aren't meant to do with our partner. Like, because your question was like, how do I work with my partner with that? And I would say that this is like a great thing to bring to like counseling or like a neutral, like, you told someone else. And I think if you like can get a good therapist, like especially in non-monogamy, but like any relationship at all, like these are like the things that I would write down and be like, okay, when I go back to therapy, this is what I'm going to work on. And I think like this is a big one. And yeah, I guess I just wanted to say like, not everything I think is meant to be worked out inside of the relationship. Some of these nuggets we can like take out, and that's like your personal work. And hopefully it sounds like you're really self-aware. So I just love thinking of the things of like, okay, this is ours, and then this one's mine. I'm going to like go do this on my own and come back. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll echo the love for the question because it's so fucking hard. And I definitely like, when I started down this path, I had a partner and she was not afraid to call me out on stuff. And it was really powerful. And one time I remember her just looking at me and saying, lying by omission is still a lie, right? So if I intentionally leave stuff out, and she followed that on by saying, and it wasn't like like somebody reflecting gently back to me something. It was like with a bit of an edge. And like, I was sort of like the story I was giving myself, and her was I was protecting her, right? And she's like, you're not protecting anyone but yourself right now. And that really shook me and got me to drop it, and just drop that and like learn to be in my truth and have integrity. And it's still scary as heck, for me tell Bella something I think she's going to find uncomfortable. But it's like that like truth telling to myself came at me in a much harsher way. And it just got me really straight that like my integrity like is my own. And if I'm not in integrity with myself, I can't be in integrity with my partner.
Really, really good. I think the only piece that I feel like I want to add to this is if I want truth from my partner, right, then I want to make it safe as possible. So there's a responsibility on both sides for honesty, right? There was a really radical community out in the Bay that they followed like 6 agreements, and they were pioneers in open relating. They were called the Soul to Soul group, and two of their agreements that 2 of these 6 was I won't hide anything. I'm not going to hide, meaning if I notice and hide nothing is not the same as share everything. Those are not the same, right? There is a degree of discretion and discernment that's required there to know the difference, right? But I know I'm hiding something when I don't want to share it. When the shame, Paul, you mentioned shame, when the shame thing kicks in, okay, that's when I know I'm hiding. So I'm committing not to hide. And the other commitment that goes with it that I really love that makes it possible, makes it work is I promise not to shame you or make you wrong for anything that you share with me in the spirit of no hiding, right? I won't shame you or make you wrong. It doesn't mean I don't get my emotional impact. Doesn't mean I don't get to have my feelings, my reactions. But it does mean that I'm not going to make you the perpetrator, make me the victim, make you the bad guy, me the wronged person, right? Like I'm going to listen from a place of understanding. And if I have an emotional reaction, I'll either take a time out until I calm down and we can schedule a reconnection or repair, or I'm going to just be vulnerable with how I'm feeling, but avoid making them wrong for that. And that has served me time and time again of creating honesty both ways. So great question. Thank you for that.
So I've always been somebody that truth comes pretty easily. Ever since I had a journey where I had to get clean off some very, very hard drugs. And from that point, I realized I had to be completely transparent with who I am and how I am in this world. In fact, you asked me to post to promote, and I posted and then just got from the woodworks, it's a whole bunch of backlash and polyamory. What are you getting married next month? Like, just a whole host of things. But I like, that was a moment where I actually felt more myself than I had in months because I stood my ground. I'm like, no, this is who I am. Like bare chested, this is who I am. And that's something that is invaluable. Like you were saying with integrity, like you just can't trade that for anything. And so there's a technique, and this is just what I wanted to share was I had a blow up. I had a major fuck up within one of my relationships, and it was a broken agreement. And it took me 10 days to share that with my partner. And it was a moment, like dark moment where I had been living miserably for those 10 days. Absolutely disgusted with the man in the mirror. And we have this thing with like inner child work, leaning into the past. And we are the sum total of our choices here today. But the person if I don't love who I am today, or I want to improve on who I am today, I have to make the hard choices to be that man tomorrow. So something that occurred to me was it was kind of this breaking through the veil and seeing my great-grandfather, who I knew very little of and only knew him by riding around in his wheelchair and taking it up the stairs and down the stairs. And I had this moment like, I don't know him. but I can still be him for myself. The same way I can be a comfort to my inner child from this place into the past. And it was a moment of saying, what would my great-great-grandfather version of me say? And what would he encourage me to do? And if I want to be the virtuous man that image is, then I got to do the hard thing. I got to make the hard choices. And that was just a little technique that I found super valuable. The same way we work with our inner child, I feel like it's super valuable to work with your inner sage, grandparent, the future you. And yeah, so that's just what I wanted to share related to that. And the question I had, I might want to pull you in on a sec, was it? Okay, so I was very curious about your monogamy versus non-monogamy. And I just wanted to ask, and hopefully you could answer this, or if you want to answer for him, what point did you come to when you just knew, like you knew that non-monogamy was not for you, but you could still stick around for someone who was? Because that's fascinating to me, because I know that we change and we move through different phases in life and different energies. We have different nervous systems, like every 7 years. So I'm just super curious to, like, what was that point that you said no to non-monogamy, but yes to your partner?
I would say that never really was a thing. It was never a point of me just deciding that it's not for me. And one thing that I'm really grateful for with Fair is we talked about her desire to be open the second day we were together when we met. And so I really appreciated that she was very forward about that from the start, because when we met, we knew that this was something special right off the bat, and we were sharing a lot, right? And so at that point, I think it was, me just having to come to terms with that as an idea of, like, is this something that I'm open to, in terms of this relationship that is likely to start to form, right? And it's not that I ever said, this is, I'm never going to experiment with that. It's more that it's not a priority for me. I'm very much an introvert. As Fair said, I'm a homebody. I like to be at home. I like my space. And the energy that it takes for me to go out on a date or meet new people, right now isn't something that is of a priority for me, right? If that relationship were to come about naturally and I would meet somebody that I felt very at ease with and attracted to and connected to, I'd be open to that. It's more that I don't put myself in that situation because I don't need it right now with where I'm at in my life. And so it's not really a, like you said, like a decision I made, but more of a, this is what I want to prioritize in my life, and I'm comfortable with that. And we built a really strong and amazing relationship together. And she, encourages me and to be either that or to have the freedom to explore if I want to. And we talk about it sometimes, but yeah, I think hopefully that answers your question.
It kind of feels like your version, in a way, is just staying open to her practice and who she is, and just maintaining that in your life is that's cool. That's really beautiful.
and I just want to say we do have an episode, a couple of episodes on my podcast where we go much more in depth about sets, reasons, and all of that. But yeah, I very much think it's just about him wanting me to be my true self, and that came with this. But also, we were mostly monogamous for 2 years. I mean, there was some openness. Like I went to a couple of play parties, and maybe I met someone like once or twice. But I think that what has also worked for us is that I've also really prioritized him and my relationship with him. And then, with time, he's been much more open, but it was definitely a process. And we talk a lot more about that in the episode that maybe we can send in the follow-up email for people who want to hear that.
Beautiful. Yeah, we can do that. Thanks, Fair. You had a question?
Thank y'all so much. Jess, I really related to what you said about, is it control? Is it boundaries? And I'm just wondering if y'all can shed something about boundaries. Like, once I let go of the moral high ground of monogamy, that's the only comfort I have of why we shouldn't do certain things. But once it becomes ethical, I actually have trouble feeling like any boundaries are justified, because I'm love is supporting you thriving in who you're becoming, but my nervous system is going crazy. And so how to strike that balance. And I live in Boulder. It's a spiritual place. Spirituality also gets confusing for me in that place of love. So anyway, if y'all could speak to how you navigate feeling okay with boundaries when they get crossed, what are your options? And how do you talk to yourself when you're preparing for a conversation about boundaries with your partner?
Do you guys mind if I take this one? Would that be all right? Are you guys okay if I answer this one? Yeah. Yeah, you guys okay with it? Okay. All right. So we'll answer this one, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. So, great question. And I think really the fine point there is I think much like yourself, when I was engaging with openness, this is my wife, Kate, and one of my closest friends, Peter. And I noticed that my theoretical desire for openness, my intellectual openness, is far greater than my nervous system's capacity for openness. And that disconnect was mind-bogglingly confusing to me. I did not understand. I was intellectually very clear on what I wanted for my partner, what we were doing, and yet when we were executing said vision, I started acting in really weird ways. I started we're, I think, maybe in our second year of our relationship, and she is at our agreement at that time was if we were at play parties, we could play independently. And she had this romantic connection with this handsome man, and they came to me during this play party and they said, "Hey, would it be okay if we had sex?" And I was like, "Absolutely, boink your brains out, have fun." And then later on in the evening, they came back and they're like, "Yeah, it didn't really, it just wasn't a good space for it. We didn't go there. We didn't do it. We'd like a rain check. Could we have a rain check?" And I was like, much like yourself, right? I couldn't think of a reason why a rain check wouldn't be a bad thing. It's I just said yes. Why wouldn't I always be yes? So I was like, sure, yeah, have a rain check, right? Okay, well, a month later, they go to collect on that rain check, and they're setting up a play date, right? And they're going out, and I notice I start acting really weird. I'm doing things like, okay, yeah, I totally support this play date, 100%. However, I'm not going to be able to we can't have contact at least 48 hours prior to your date. And then I'm going to need 48 hours buffer after your date so that I can just be cool, right? So I can regulate my nervous system, right? And she's like, "The fuck are you talking about? I want to be in your arms the moment I leave the house, And the moment I get home, like 48 hours, what are you smoking? Like, no fucking way, right? And I'm like, well, no. I mean, well, then you just like, it's just not going to work. Like I need self-care. I'm pulling a self-care card. You can't challenge my self-care card. Like, that's so not conscious. Like, you can't do that, right? And she's like, I'm totally challenging it. It's absolute bullshit. And you're acting really weird. And I want to know what's going on for you, right? And I'm like, are you triggered? She asked me, right? I'm like, triggered? No, I'm totally cool. Cool as a cucumber. Like, this is exactly what I want. Like, I'm so happy that you're going out with him. Like, this is awesome, you know? And she's like, then what's with like the whole 48 hours and everything? I was like, look, I don't like, okay, you're right. Something's happening. There are things going on inside me that I don't like, I'm not comfortable with, but I'm also not comfortable showing them to you. I like don't want you to see my anxiety because my insecurity is not attractive. And I want to be attractive, especially confronting any level of NRE on the other side, new relationship energy, right? Like, fuck that. I want to be the most attractive, hardest to leave partner ever, right? I want to be the icon of stay with me, you know? And whinging about you and what you can or can't do with somebody else is not attractive. So we're not going there. And I'm not revealing anything vulnerable. So fuck off and give me my 48 hours, right? And she's like, no. And I'm calling the date off. And I was like, whoa. Hey, hold on. No. That's not what I want. I genuinely don't want you shorting your joy because of my insecurities. Like, fuck that. Like, not only that, but then, like, if I want to do something and you're having feelings, then does that mean I have to stop it? Like, this is setting a bad precedent all around. Like, no, I don't like this. And she's like, no, I'm going to do that. I'm like, no. Well, she ended up going on the date anyway, because I absolutely insisted. I was an absolute child about it, right? An absolute child about it. They went afterwards. I was like, how's the date? She's like, it was fine. It was good. But I was spinning a lot. I was spending a lot of cycles in my head thinking about how you're doing because I couldn't tell because you wouldn't be truthful with me. Right? And I was like, so then I actually opened up and shared with her and I shared my insecurities and she listened fully to it and was like, okay, heard, this is too much for you. We have stepped outside, like, you know, we talk about 1 foot in your comfort zone, 1 foot out is the growth zone. You got both feet out, bro. You are spinning. You got to pull a foot in. I'm like, I don't even know what that looks like. It's like, it means you set a boundary. Set a boundary. Tell me what I can and can't do. It's like, oh, that's so weak. So pathetic. She's like, no, it's strong when you state what you are, what you're capable and not capable of. That is self-awareness. That is strength. That's attractive to me. It means you're willing to take a stand for our relationship even when it makes you uncomfortable. And I trust you more there. And so I was like, fuck. Okay. All right. So we set some boundaries. Okay, you can do this, but you can't do that. You can do this, but you can't do that. Right? Well, once she said, look, I'm taking it off. I'm taking the relationship offline. I'm coming back to you. And when she did that and allowed me to set boundaries, something shifted in me. Something clicked. I felt safety. I was like, holy fuck. And then once my nervous system calmed down, my brain was able to embrace the excitement of compersion, and I got excited about her connecting with it. And the next time that they connected, it was a full, clear fuck yes in my system because I had been willing to honor myself even though it was super uncomfortable. And it's still a challenge for me, and I still hate it. But I have that reference experience, and I know that I owe it to her, I owe it to myself, set boundaries, because it works out so much better when I do. All right. Thanks for all the amazing questions, guys, and for the great engagement. Can we give a round of applause for our experts up here? Amazing, amazing, amazing. Can we give a round of applause for Quinn in the back for helping us out with this beautiful space? And one last round of applause for Seth for being such an extrovert and meeting so many new people here tonight. All right, we're going to stick around.
And a round of applause for our host, Master of Ceremonies, Yafata, my man.